Hello, my name is Stacy Rausch, and today I will be discussing the common collection development debate on which type of classification system is right for libraries today. I will be discussing two types, the Dewey Decimal System and the BISAC system, and then based on the research and my own opinion, I will be deciding the winner. A library collection is an accumulation of information resources intended for a user community. Therefore, the user base and their information needs need to be one of the utmost concern. Borrowing printed books is still the most popular activity at libraries, and the user base is still there. 64% of library users over the age of 16 have checked out a book in the last 12 months. So what's the problem? A recent online survey of librarians found that over half said patrons have difficulty finding books because they have trouble understanding the catalog, they feel intimidated by a confusing classification system, and they want to go to the right shelf without having to look anything up. So could these problems be solved by a classification system? Let's consider all of the work that a collection librarian does in order to cultivate a collection. A librarian would first complete a community analysis. Their needs and wants would be studied in order to purchase the appropriate materials. So with so much care put into purchasing items for the community, the question remains, how are we going to organize those materials and for whom? This is a classification struggle that has been plaguing the library world for some time. There have even been clever names that the industry is calling this problem. Dewey or don't we, the Dewey debacle, ditching Dewey, and the Dewey dilemma. So let's first dive into the Dewey Decimal System. The Dewey Decimal Classification System is a library classification system using a standardized numerical system. The system uses numbers, and then decimals are used to indicate further specificity. So let's meet Melville Dewey. Mr. Dewey created the Dewey Decimal System when he was 21 and working in the library at Amherst College. He devised a system for organizing books. He was so interested in efficiency that he even shortened the spelling of his name from Melville Dewey, that you can see on the left, to Melville Dewey on the right to remove redundant letters. Dewey is a number system, and books are shelved by subject according to their number. Here you can see some of, or all of the main classes or categories. And here's a photo of what a shelf of Dewey classification looks like in the real world. You will see a J for juvenile, a Dewey number, in this case 970.3, and then the first initial of the last name or the full last name of the author. And this is a common sight in modern public libraries. So what are the pros and the cons of the Dewey system? Here are the pros. The Dewey system is a universal method in libraries. Dewey is the most widely used classification system in the world, with over 200,000 libraries using it in 138 countries. Each item has a specific location on the shelf. The system is efficient for large collections and also for research tasks. And order and organization is a benefit. No one can deny that Dewey is organized. So what are the cons? There's a complicated learning curve. The Dewey Decimal System numbers are complicated, sometimes lengthy, and they require a good understanding of the system, which means that it requires training to understand the system. And even with extensive training, if users don't use it very often, it's easy to become confused. And it's difficult for browsing. For example, train books could be in the 380s or the 620s. Craft books could be in the 600s or the 700s. The numbers themselves don't have any inherent meaning. There's no real reason why the 920s must be biographies. So what do librarians think of the Dewey? Some librarians prefer the precision and the organization of the Dewey. They value the ability to find a specific shelf location, and they claim that the point of classification is findability. So moving into our next system, I'd like to paint a picture for you. A mother and child enter a library. They notice the fireplace and the cozy chairs, the cafe steaming hot coffee, and the up-to-date computer center. However, the most notable part is the way the books are organized. They see that all of the books have been shelved, labeled, and organized by pictures and signs. They respond by saying, quote, "The library, which used to be a little intimidating, is reaching out to me." Which brings us to BISAC. BISAC is an alternative classification system. It's based off the Book Industry Standards and Communications System, a retail-based standard for organizing materials. The system is maintained by the Book Industry Study Group, which is a trade association for publishers. The first library to use this system was in 2007 when the Perry Branch Library in Arizona opened. Unlike the Dewey system, it categorizes related knowledge systematically. BISAC is an alphabetical list of 52 categories that you can see here, and each of the categories has additional levels of specificity. The categories for each book are decided by the publisher of each book. The system is often called the bookstore model because it was born out of the retail setting, and it caters to the needs of a browser. The Metropolitan Library Services Urban Library Council says that 74% of library users fall into the category of browser. They're just looking for something good to read. So let's consider how bookstores such as Barnes & Noble are laid out, kind of like you can see in this photo. Effective layouts that allow for easy browsing. So this easy to understand, customer-focused arrangement creates topical neighborhoods. How does this system work? Think pictures and instant recognition. Signage is the #1 way to make this system work. So we use spine labels that are a key to this system, color-coded and visual spine labels, and they provide visual cues that allow the user to easily find books. And this is a photo of some examples of different types of spine labels that people could easily recognize. BISAC allows libraries to create custom shelving as well, instead of just the traditional linear stacks of books. Libraries can group materials together in unique ways. They can also reposition popular collections closer to the entrance and combine similar collections. So let's review the pros and cons of BISAC. BISAC is easy to navigate. The system is very intuitive and it doesn't require instructions first. The specificity is a benefit. BISAC can go down to very specific levels. It's customizable and flexible for libraries to use. You can create your own creative category names. You can decide how granular you want to be. So for example, you can call a section pets, or you can break it down to dogs, cats, and other pets. You can also put related topics together, and this type of system is efficient for popular collections. The cons of BISAC? Well, it's time-intensive and costly to set up this system if you're currently using the traditional Dewey system. Also, dropping Dewey is difficult for librarians. Change is hard. One librarian called it, quote, "a betrayal of core library values," unquote. It's also not as useful for doing research if you need to find one specific book. Categories can be too large if they get out of control, and the system is entirely based on English words, so it might not be an ideal classification system for a multilingual community. So what do librarians think of BISAC? Many prefer the user-friendly language, but there are still a majority that are clinging to the traditional Dewey system. They say that abandoning Dewey would be reckless and irresponsible. However, many librarians claim that simply adding better signage or adding categories would help the patrons. So it seems that they do agree with the essence of BISAC. Many libraries, including the Frankfurt Public Library District, are slowly incorporating BISAC into their Dewey system. So, now that we've reviewed the two systems, who wins this debate? The winner of this debate should be which system serves the user best. And that's clearly BISAC. While we put so much attention into other aspects of a customer's experience, are we considering the way the books are organized? One of the #1 topics that one should consider when creating a collection is how to organize it. We should be organizing the collection in a way that is easy for the customer to use and understand. We tend to organize the collection around a librarian's needs rather than a customer's, and therefore our customers can't seem to understand the Dewey system. The Dewey system may be the leading classification system in the world, but it seems to be outdated and not in line with how we should be empowering self-service. Dewey is set up for users to find one item. It is familiar for us librarians who use the system every day. The classes make sense to us, but not to the average user. The saying is that users want to find, librarians want to search. And the BISAC system is set up to facilitate the user to browse and find their own books. We are empowering the user. Switching to BISAC would be an important advancement in the library world by opening up access to our collections to more people. By using an image-based classification system, we would not be inhibiting findability based on a person's economic or educational background, because training would not be necessary to use the system. Think about how Dewey is used. A person has to go to a computer, open the OPAC, type in the search terms, and they have to know how to spell it correctly. If the results come up with the right book, they now have a number with decimals and they need to locate that number somewhere in the library. In reality, most people know nothing about finding a book using the Dewey system without the help of a librarian. So why are we using a system that requires our help? Doesn't that seem a bit self-indulgent? We have used categories in our collections already. Our fiction collections are usually broken down into subgenres, such as romance, sci-fi, and mystery. We occasionally pull out nonfiction books into categories to highlight them. Think about how we display our career development books and travel books. So now's the time to accommodate our entire collection. While it's evident that transitioning to a BISAC system would take a huge amount of time and money now, it will be a benefit for future library users to come. It's also one of our only hurdles of competition that remains with bookstores. We already currently provide a lot of the same thing that bookstores offer, but they have a leg up on us, their ease of access in finding a book. By transitioning to a BISAC system, libraries could reach that last hurdle, and our books are free. So what does that mean for collection development? BISAC can facilitate a library's collection development practices because it allows the collection manager to see the holes in their collection. For example, I, as collection librarian, could create a report with all of the BISAC headings, migrate it into our inventory, and then easily see how many books are categorized in each category down to the most specific category. Overall, BISAC is the most customer-friendly system in play today, and I see it as a classification system of 21st century libraries. We should be empowering our users to use the library on their terms, and an image-based system would encourage them to come in our doors. So the winner of this debate is BISAC, and BISAC should be the new classification system for libraries.